Hello, and welcome to our first video in the set of vocabulary videos that we're going to do for all of the word families. We'll do 5 families per video, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction on how we're going to do that. So, as we go along, I'll just read each one in each family. Each set represents a different level of family. If you're a beginner, or if you don't know the vocabulary in the first group, as in this case inhibit, hamper, forestall, and disgruntle, if you're not familiar with any of those, then make sure you learn all of those first and then read everything in the second family. In the second family, we have more unusual or less frequently occurring words, so only study those once you've mastered the first level. And then level 3 I'm not going to address often because they haven't showed up on the test before, so they're less important to what we're doing. So let's begin. In this case, our first family is deter. And in level 1 words are inhibit, hamper, forestall, and disgruntle. In inhibit, below each family, you'll find the definition and a way to remember each definition, which you can read on your own time or in the book. In this case, I will use both what's here in the text, like in this case, inhibit comes from Latin inhibere, which means to hold back. I'm not just going to read that, I'm going to try to provide a little more explanation in addition to what's on the screen, but what's on the screen is for your edification. In second word is hamper, which you can think of as a clothes hamper. But you can also think of a hamstring. Like if your hamstring is cut, your hammy is cut, you'd have a hard time running, and so you would be deterred from what you were doing. Forestall, to stall means to stop or to halt, and so for is before, so it means to stop, in this case stall, before. And then disgruntle, grunt is actually the sound that a person makes when they're frustrated, like so to disgruntle means to cause someone to be very frustrated. In the level 2 words we have frustrate, encumber, impede, hinder, constrict, obstruct, detain, and then related is obstacle. And it's related because obstacle does not mean to deter, but it actually just is something that does deter you, as does congestion. And frustrate is often an emotion, like frustrated, and you are frustrated because something has frustrated your actions. You usually feel that way because something has stopped you from doing what you want to do. Encumber, I like to think of a cummerbund, which is part of a tuxedo. A cummerbund goes around your middle, and so that would be tight and restricting and deter you. Impede, ped, in Latin, means foot. That's a good one to remember because it actually does come up a lot. So if you're impeded, it means you're not footing or not walking. Hinder, we have hind, which means behind, which means you would be late or delayed. Constrict, it's easy to remember because of boa constrictor, and a boa constrictor will tie you up and stop you from moving forward. Obstruct, would have to do with structure. So ob is against the structure. So it's a structure against you, in like an obstacle, which is the same kind of root. And so you can connect obstruct and obstacle together. Detain means to hold. That's a fairly common word, but you want to remember that it means to stop or stop someone from moving forward. An obstacle, as we said already, we connect it to obstruct. And congestion means a number of things. It could be traffic congestion. It could be congestion in your nose from a cold. But it's together and living. Just is like grow, so it's growing together. All right, let's move on to the next page in the next family. Our second family is give up. And we have, in some families, we have words that are very simple, but they are also words that you have to know. In fact, these are words that you should know already before you begin. If you don't know these words, then you must make sure that you have absolute mastery. So in this case, it's surrender, submit, yield. yield, and collapse. Not every family has these, but they're the most important ones to remember. So in our first family, we have founder, concession, and forfeit. Founder is related to boats, which is what happens when a boat runs aground and like on a beach or a sandbar. So the bottom or the foundation is stuck on something. So that's what founder means. So if you founder, you have to give up because you are stuck. Concession is related to concede, which means give in. And you can think of a movie theater because you buy concessions in a movie theater and they're very expensive and they make you want to give up. I'm going to be fairly shameless in how bad some of these puns and jokes are, but it's good because the worse that a joke is, the better it is to remember it. Forfeit is a fairly common word, and so you forfeit a game, like maybe there's not enough players that showed up, or someone does something illegal, so it's forfeit, and that means you give it over. The root is not very helpful, so it's not related to other ones, so to actually learn it might be a little more confusing than not. In level 2, we have succumb, concede, capitulate, swoon, and topple. Now, topple means to fall over, but topple can also be a verb where someone is doing the toppling to you, like you could topple a stack of coins, or simply topple on your own. Succumb, sounds kind of like suck thumb, and so if you're like a baby, you suck your thumb and you give up. Concede and concession, we already tied together. Capitulate, you can think of the capital city, so that if you lose your capital city, you have given up the war, and that's how you can connect capitulate. And then swoon kind of sounds like what it is swoon, and whoa, like you're toppling, like you're going to fall over, like you have a wound. All right, let's move on to the next family. This page we have not proud, which is not a very big one. Not every family is very big. And even in this case, there are some families that don't have anything in the first level at all. In which case, if you were only studying the first level, then you don't need to study this family at all. Some common words that mean not proud are humble and modest. Again, as we mentioned, there's no first level, so there's nothing to study there. But in level 2, we have self-effacing, unassuming, meek, and unpretentious. And you can see a connection here. We have self-effacing, which means to yourself. To efface means to remove the face, literally. Efface means face off. So literally self-effacing means take your face off, which means decrease your standing or your image. Unassuming, to assume means that you think that you know what is right. So if you're unassuming, then you never think that you know what is right, which means you're not confident or you're not proud, as we say here, or humble. Meek is kind of an old-fashioned word, and it often was connected with mouse, so that most people will almost always say meek as a mouse rather than just say meek, or they will always connect meek with mice. So, but they both start with M, and it's also the same sound that a mouse makes, meek, meek. Next is unpretentious, and pretentious means to believe that you know what is good and what is bad. And so to be pretentious is to be full of pride. And you can think of it as pretend like you know better. So if you're unpretentious, then you don't believe that you know better or worse. All right, let's move on to family number 4. And here we have an example of family that's actually quite large. And so it's extremely important that you learn it properly, because these kind of words show up often in the sentence completion questions because they're strongly connotated as positive or negative. So, in the extremely proud family, we have arrogant and boastful as words that you should probably already know. And in level 1, we have egotistical, bombastic, pretentious, presumptuous, and narcissistic. And we already talked about pretentious. So as the opposite of unpretentious. Presume, unpresuming, that's similar to what we had before as unassuming. Presumptuous is assuming and presuming that you know what is the right thing to do. Going back, egotistical is connected to ego here at the beginning of the word. We have ego here at the beginning of the word. And we have, comes from Freud, which comes from psychology. Sorry, I had a little pen mishap there. But we'll just keep going there. Bombastic, we have bomb. Ego at the beginning of egotistical has to do with, like Freud, and the ego is the self. So egotistical is self-etistical, and you believe that you're the best. Bombastic is easy to remember because it's like a bomb, and a bomb going off means that you're drawing a lot of attention to yourself. We talked about pretentious and presumptuous, and narcissistic comes from an ancient Greek myth. There was a Greek god named Narcissus, and he fell in love with his own image, and he fell so deeply in love with his image that he never left the side of a pool when he saw it. So he actually stayed so long at the pool that he died because he wouldn't leave his own reflection. That's how arrogant he was and self-absorbed. So that's definitely extremely proud. In level 2, we have pompous, haughty, moralistic, stilted, vain, vainglorious, grandiloquent, grandstanding, and then related, rarefied, which means slightly different. So let's go to pompous. You can think of pompous as pump us full of air. If someone is pompous, their chest is very expanded. They're very proud of themselves because they're very pompous and full. And someone who's pompous would also be haughty, and you can think of that as high because that's what it means in French. But you could also think of like a hot air balloon, a haughty air balloon, because it's full of hot air. Moralistic can be tricky because it looks positive, because someone who is morals are good, but someone who is moralistic is telling other people what is right and wrong, so that's an extreme amount of pride. Someone who is stilted is very stiff, as though their legs are made of wood, and walking awkwardly. And even you can remember, because on walking on stilts, you would be walking very high. So someone stilted is above everybody else. Vain and vainglorious mean practically the same thing. Vain is an extremely old word, and you can think of a weather vane as standing on top of a building, if that actually is difficult for you. Vainglorious is very similar, except for vainglorious is for people who want to make themselves look better than other people and get a lot of credit for things that they didn't do. So if someone steals credit for something, they're vainglorious. They're trying to find the glory that's in that word. Grandiloquent and grandstanding both start with grand, which means big or great or powerful. Grandiloquent, we have also the root of loque, which means word. So grandiloquent means great words, and so kind of speaking in too high of a way, that is using too big of words. And grandstanding is standing in a grand or big way, which would be like also in a grandstand, like in a baseball field. So talking to a big crowd and acting like everybody's listening to you and you're extremely important. That's grandstanding. And then related is rarefied, which doesn't necessarily mean extremely proud, but it does mean kind of elite or rare or specialized. Usually rarefied has to do with spread out or literally made rare. All right, let's move on to the next page. And we've got number 5. family of which is discussion. Let's zoom in a little bit there. Okay, discussion. We have two common words in harmony and unanimity, which harmony means peace or evenness, and unanimity is coming together. They're fairly common words. In the first family, we have concord, concur, accord, consensus, and cordiality. Now, these are easy to connect together because in a lot of these we have con, which means together, con, and we also have cord, which means heart. So we have concord or hearts together. And that even concur goes with concord. It's a related root. Accord means similarly cord or heart together. Consensus means feeling together or sensing together. And cordiality is friendliness or politeness, and heartedness, kindness. Communal means commune, and to commune means to work together or co-unity, like community. In level 2, we have truce, confirmation, confer, consonance, convocation, discourse, powwow, consultation, and bipartisanship. And just like in the other family, we've got that same connection of con, which means together. And then we have different things that mean mostly speak, like confirm means together strong, like firm or strong. Truce is a fairly common word, and that's actually a document or an official discussion. But for con words, we have firm, strength. Confer means come together also. Consonance means sound or son or voice together, just like convocation is voc or vocal, speak together. Discourse is also a discussion. It sounds like discussion even. Powwow is a Native American word that's been taken over by English, and it's kind of a quick informal meeting in English. And consultation has the word consult, which is talk to one another, so it's a discussion again. And bipartisanship is a little unusual, but it means two sides of an issue working together and coming together. All right, well, thanks very much. See you in the next video where we'll continue with numbers 6 through 10. And good luck with all of the videos. It's a lot of information, but if you spend the correct amount of time and apply yourself properly, you're going to see great results there. So thank you very much.